The words family farm are so general that they are essentially meaningless. In fact, there are as many different farms as there are farmers, different production practices, different products, different ways of marketing those products. I think it's always interesting as we work to get a better understanding of where our food comes from to talk to farmers and see what they do, how they do it, and why they do it. My name is Mike Von Massow, and this is the Food Focus Podcast. My guest today is Kyle Oakley, who, along with his family, runs an apple and vegetable farm, as well as a small grocery store or farm market called Goldsmiths. We talk about what how they make decisions, how they farm, how growing vegetables is different than you might remember in your grandmother's garden. I have memories of my parents gardening when I was a kid, and it was not my favorite thing to do to spend a Saturday afternoon with a hoe getting weeds out. And Kyle assures me that while they still have to hoe occasionally, it's not the predominant way that they manage vegetable production. So I think it's interesting. He talks about how they make choices as to what crops to grow, how they are evolving, how labor plays an essential role in their success, and how different from farming having a food retail store is. I think you'll find the conversation really interesting and worthwhile. Well, hi, Kyle. Thanks for taking the time. I expect this is a busy time of year for you.
Yeah, morning, Mike. No, happy to be on this, and yeah, it is a busy time of year. Lots going on. We're about halfway through our our big push for getting vegetables into the ground and everything ready for the growing season.
Well, tell me a little bit about your farm, because I know you're up in Thornbury, Grey County, and that's not sort of where many of us think about vegetable production, maybe apple production. So tell me a little bit about your farm.
So the farm. So to start off with, I farm with. It's a full family organization.
Yeah.
So I'm farming with Brad and Teresa, mother and father, and then as well as my sister is part of the organization, as is my wife Debbie, and we have a fantastic team of people from near and a farm who help us to grow what we do, as well as manage our market, which is an on-farm market operating year-round. But as far as the farm goes, we have 160 acres of orchard and about 40 to 45 acres of what we like to call our market garden.
Okay. And what do you grow in the market garden?
So in the market garden, we have a little bit of a lot of things.
Yeah.
We have field tomatoes, grape tomatoes. Cut flowers are becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we do, as well as sweet corn, garden peas or green peas, green beans, yellow beans. Lettuce is something that we've started to grow in the last couple of years, well as cantaloupe, squash, pumpkins, gourds, kind of to round it out, as well as gladiolas and lilies and different things for bouquets that we make for the market.
So is the portfolio of products you grow driven by demand in the market in the store or the direct to consumer facility you have, or is it a risk diversification strategy? So if one crop doesn't do as well, the other one does better, or how do you sort of decide what you're going to grow?
So yeah, really the market, our on farm market, Goldsmiths Farm Market and Bakery, is the driver of what we are producing in our market garden. I would say right around 95% of what we grow in our market garden goes direct to consumer through our on farm market. It's a small percentage of the apples that we grow through the market, but yeah, Jeff, definitely tailoring what we are growing to in the market garden to the market is what we do. The on-farm market and the market garden started as a risk diversification from apples. I wanted to come home, and we realized that there probably wasn't enough at that time in the orchard to sustain a second family. So at that time, we set about with a plan to revitalized the orchard by replacing 45 acres semi-dwarf trees to high density apples, as well as getting into the direct to consumer, which at that time was in a 20 by 40 tent. And then we purchased what was known locally as Goldsmiths in 2013.
So it was. I'm just interested. I just recorded an intro for my last podcast, which was a conversation with some young farmers, and one of the challenges is getting home and creating enough income for another family, which is exactly what you just outlined, right? So not only diversifying risk, but expanding the enterprise so that you had the ability to come home and your dad and mom weren't ready to retire, so uh, you needed to generate more revenue to support more families.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then of course, since then, my wife has been able to join the operation, as has my sister Krista have been able to come home in order to, keep everything going. Our vision was realized a little bit quicker than we thought was possible, and then we moved into a stage and are still kind of coming to grips with that now, of just getting a handle on where we're at and where we're going now. Everything was moving so quickly, and then through the last 2 years with the pandemic, it's been a very challenging time for everyone in society as a whole, but certainly their own set of unique challenges for the market and for the farm.
How did I mean? Clearly, you have local business where you are at, but you're also in an area where you have a lot of tourist traffic, and I expect your farm market and maybe not even tourists, but sort of people who have second homes, skiers in the winter, and campers and cottagers in the summer. How did the pandemic affect your direct to consumer business, the actual market?
So you're absolutely right. This has always been a seasonal business to a large extent. Certainly, the winters have been quieter than the summer months. We kind of kick off our busy season with May 2-4 weekend,
Yeah,
and then it goes right through until a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. It's full speed ahead. What happened at the beginning of the pandemic is we saw increase in traffic at the market, an increase in cart size as well, as people looked to smaller establishments to get in and get out with the products that they wanted, which were staples to everything that we already had. So what we ended up doing is having to move quickly in getting the products that our customers were asking for, which was a lot of staples that we generally weren't into carrying before the pandemic began. And then also we quickly brought on an idea, which was the online store. So we moved fully to having about 90% of our products available through an online ordering system as well. And then it was probably, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 months into the pandemic that people started to realize this was going to be a longer term thing than everyone had hoped for. And then what started to happen locally was exodus from your big population centers, the Golden Horseshoe, GTA. People were moving out to their second homes and saying, you know what, I'm going to stay here. We're doing online schooling anyway, so the kids can be here. Or they were selling or purchasing their second home in the area.
yeah.
So there was a lot of people have moved into the area over the last 2 years. So that had a really big effect on what we were doing at the market.
Yeah. So do you think that as we get to a summer that is more quote unquote normal, do you think that you will continue to have that product mix in the store, some of those staples?
We never really have a set plan. It's
Yeah.
more 100% response to what people are asking for.
Yeah.
If someone's looking for this product, or a couple people have asked us for a product, we're going to go and search it out and find it and bring it in. So it's definitely a response to what people are asking for or what they're not buying. And what has happened is people have gone back to a little bit more their usual habit and purchase cycle. So the cart size within the last number of months has decreased a bit. and what they're putting into the cart has decreased as well. So the staples aren't necessarily a part of what people are looking to us for. We still may people will buy it for the weekend or that type of thing, but in general, people are looking for those staples from where they usually purchase them.
Yeah. So that was kind of what my expectation was. So let's go back to the farm, and again, here we are on the last day of May, and you're inside talking to me, and I appreciate it's all good. But I expect, and correct me if I'm wrong, I expect that you stagger planting out so that product comes mature from when it's first possible to start selling green beans or any of those things till after the second week, after 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. You want products to come mature at different times. And what I think a lot of people don't think about is that that means you have to plant them at different times.
Absolutely. So yeah, so part of our overall strategy on making sure that we have product available as long as possible has been recently we've put up two small greenhouses
Okay.
over the last couple of years. So we started with a 30 by 50 greenhouse in 2020 and immediately realized that it needed to be bigger. So we put up a 35 by 190 last year. So as the response to that is we've already harvested some green beans out of the greenhouse over the last month, and we've been harvesting English cucumbers for a bit over a month and a half as well. So we've had our own English cucumbers for that period of time. So yes, you're definitely planting consecutive plantings
Yeah.
in order to do it as you said, spread it out. So we we have a very late last frost in compared to someone in Norfolk County, for example.
Yeah.
So we're not really putting much in the ground before the 20th of May, maybe even May 24th, because it's not unheard of for even now the last day of May to get a frost.
Yeah.
This is a super hot day today, high of 30, 31 perhaps, and then it looks like we're going to have some more normal weather over this next week with the lows being as low as 9 or 8 perhaps even over the next couple of nights. So it's by no means hot at this time of the year usually.
Yeah.
So so we're putting in green beans and peas for every couple of weeks. We're putting those in. Corn we're planting sequentially every 5 to 7 days until the end of July. Sometimes it doesn't make it through the fall. But if it's a warm fall, then it's not out of the question that we'll have our own sweet corn for Thanksgiving.
Well, that's really good. And do you use the greenhouse to extend the season in the fall as well? So the greenhouse gave you cucumbers and beans early in the season, so you're selling local fresh beans now, when that's not possible in the. But will you then plant it in during the summer as well to extend through, maybe the Christmas season, or is it really just extending the summer?
Yeah, we're going to use it for both. We're going to put in the middle of summer. We'll put in our fall crop. So what we'll hope to do is get into middle November, that type of thing, or maybe even late November. It just depends on the year.
Yeah.
It'll depend on the amount of sunlight and how cold it is. Generally, December is a very very dark month throughout the province, but especially in this snow belt area.
Yeah.
It gets very dark, so it costs a lot of money to heat, especially with propane being up about 50% over the last year. It is a big cost, so we have to weigh that all out to make sure that we're going to be successful in doing it.
Yeah. So you said earlier that you're a very much a seasonal business. That area gets busy from sort of the May long weekend till after Thanksgiving, but there is traffic up there in the winter for variety of things, and there are still locals and that sort of thing. Your store stays open year round?
Yep. So we're open year round, and certainly the environment we have now is completely different than we did before the pandemic because there is that many more people in the area. It's certainly busier through the winter than it ever has been before. but generally, yes, there still is that cyclical nature, but tons of skiing, tons of cross country skiing. A lot of trails are starting to be groomed and that type of thing in the year where through the winter where they haven't been before. So yes, it's certainly a four season area. Just it is a little bit quieter usually in the winter, but we'll have to see. Everything is almost like starting fresh, and I think everyone feels that too. There's a lot of people establishing new habits and new routines and new ways of doing things. And a lot of people, I think, have realized the importance of taking time to care for self throughout this whole pandemic. And to a lot of people, that means spending more time outdoors with their family or solo, that type of thing. So there's a lot of new ideas out there about what it means to be alive, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so, we kind of feel that and see that through the products that people are asking for. And also just in general of what days are busy of the week and, how busy we are first thing in the morning versus after the workday and that type of thing. Everything is different.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of constantly kind of appraising what's going on and how can we best suit to serve our customers the great food that we're able to offer in this area. You mentioned apples. Yes, apples are a huge part of what Grey County is now and has always been since the 1830s. Actually, this area has been producing apples and is still the largest acreage of apples as a region in the province.
Yeah. Yeah. And many people wouldn't think, up nestled in the Beaver Valley, mostly along Georgian Bay, what a big apple producing area it is. I think it's sort of people don't have a good understanding of where things can and do grow in Ontario and in fact across the country. Obviously, you with your greenhouses, you've opened the spring up a little bit, and you'll extend till November. Do you sell fresh produce throughout the winter as well and just get it from another source?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, we do. We tend to look at ourselves as a specialty grocery store offering just the highest quality product that we can obtain. Local, 100%. As soon as it's available, we're there.
Yeah.
But in those seasons when it's not available, then yes, we're definitely still procuring the best quality product that we can, and then offering it to our customers throughout the year.
So how does a an operation like yours get fresh produce in the winter? Are you using the Ontario Food Terminal? Are you developing relationships with other distributors, or I expect it's not easy for a, like you say, a specialty store in Thornbury, Ontario, to come up with some of these things.
So yes, we do have a variety of relationships. Certainly, having a buyer at the food terminal is part of our whole plan
Yeah.
to round out our product offering when we can't have that local stuff available. And yeah, we're working directly with them, in order to establish what we want, and they have a good understanding of what is going to sell in our store. Frequent conversations and getting it all figured out so that we can just have that top quality product, and that's really what they are in the market to do. So it works out well. So we send a truck down multiple times a week in order to pick up the freshest product that's available from the terminal or through other parts of the province as well, and then bring it here.
So it's interesting, and I've been. I think the terminal is one of the coolest places on the face of the earth. I love it, and I had a conversation with a local supermarket, a small specialty store here in Fergus called Freybert's. I don't know if you're
Yep,
familiar with it.
I
Uh,
am. Yep,
Jackie does the shopping at the terminal herself, but I do know from tours that they have people who will go and do the buying.
yep.
Why does it make sense for your operation to have someone do that for you?
I think it really what it comes down to is how much time in the day is there.
Yeah,
In order to get the freshest, or even to have it be possible to get when there's high demand for some products, especially local, you need to be at the terminal probably at 2 o'clock a.m. at the latest
yeah,
in order to procure that stuff. So there's not really an opportunity to be down at the market shopping at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, uh, coming back and then having a sensible day of, getting things, making sure everything is operating smoothly at the market and on the farm. There's just not possible to do it all.
Yep. No, and that makes sense. So, I grew up in a family that gardened, and frankly don't have particularly good memories of gardening as a kid. I've started to do it a little bit again with a very small area in my backyard and some planters on the deck. But a market garden like yours is completely different from the picture many people will have of gardens in the backyard. These are, I mean, large, technical. This is a farm. Tell us a little bit about the type of equipment you have, the type of things that you do, just to paint a picture for people where their food comes from.
Absolutely. So I think I'd like to start off by saying we have a large team at certain times of the year, certainly when it comes to apple harvest, of very dedicated individuals that we wouldn't be able to be farming without. Some of these people have been with us for over 25 years, so they're very skilled, and we couldn't do it without them. A lot of them, a good number on our team, are coming from Jamaica, and
Mm-hmm.
we are absolutely honored that they choose to return each and every year to us, and do the work that we do together as a team, uh, producing fantastic Ontario grown product. So I would be remiss without mentioning them and the incredible work that they do, and which often gets overlooked. As a Canadian person, um, we would not have the food system we do without the people that are making themselves available to come from afar to produce what we do here in Canada. But as far as what makes us different than a market garden, than your standard backyard garden, in a lot of ways everything, and in a lot of ways nothing at all. What do you want to eat, and what do you want to sell are often the same type of thing. Um, so are we producing it in as ecologically sustainable way possible? Absolutely, and I don't think there's another farmer out there that isn't doing the same. They're living usually on the same piece of land that they're producing with. So that means doing things responsibly, so that future generations of their own family or other families can do the same type of thing on the land. But everything is bigger. You're absolutely right. So we have some larger tractors, not large in the whole scheme of things for tractors, but we have a 150 horse tractor which we use to plant trees. It has a full auto steer, GPS auto steer, so that we're able to put trees or our raised beds or that type of thing in with up to about 1 inch accuracy. So that allows for a lot of things in the orchard. It allows us to put in with the future in mind, that we know robotics are coming and coming quickly, and we know that it's going to have to be everything is going to have to be symmetrical and has to be the same each row to the next.
Yeah.
So that's the reason to put it in with that much accuracy. And you mentioned you didn't have great memories of, probably on the end of a hoe was one of
Yeah.
the things that you don't have a great memory of. And we certainly still have hoes, and they come out not as much as they often once did because there's more mechanization, but we certainly still rely on them in order to weed around our specialty flowers or that type of thing. That there isn't a chemical solution or a larger mechanical solution to deal with the weeds that are popping up, that type of thing. So certainly, what you are choosing to buy as a consumer is ultimately what we are going to choose to put in the ground, so that we have a market for our product. It doesn't do any good to produce fields and fields of product if there's no end use for it.
Yep.
So people are saying, "Oh, I love your garden peas. We've developed a real following for our garden peas." When they come out, people are snapping them up because they know they're delicious, and it often reminds them of their grandparents' garden. That of a certain age. There's I think there's a lot of people that remember grandparents' garden, and I think there's a lot of people that haven't had that experience because grandma and grandpa perhaps didn't live in a single family home with a
Yeah,
large backyard. They've grown up in some of the population centers, so that wasn't a possibility. And those people are now discovering a lot of the flavors and the experience of, say, our garden peas, but also of growing. The pandemic has given people a lot of, often more time than they had before for a variety of reasons, and people have picked up growing. And they're saying, you know what, I'm going to try that. I think a lot of people picked it up and probably didn't enjoy it, but there's probably an equal number that said, you know what, that was great. That was really relaxing, or I enjoyed it. And it was very fulfilling in order to go out into my backyard or even my planter that I put on the balcony and pick my tomato or pick my whatever they've decided to grow, or if it was in case of flowers, look at. And it was
yeah,
very fulfilling. So, and that's the same feeling that we get, just on a different scale. So when you're, looking at your field and it looks great and there's no weeds, and the product is coming off and it's of the quality you want, and that's extremely fulfilling. It's equally crushing when you go out and you realize that it's not going to be possible to harvest anything off of those
yeah,
acres for a variety of reasons. The plants died, or the quality of the product isn't there, or the weeds got too high because you missed step
yeah,
on one portion of it along the way. So that's the other side of it all, is just, you know it's equally fulfilling, but it's equally crushing to a larger extent. And the analogy that's sometimes used is, you put your paycheck out there in the field, or in the case of an apple tree, you staple it to the side of an apple tree. If you get enough water, something doesn't eat it, you don't get a hailstorm come through, all of these different scenarios, and if it's still there at the end of the year, then you get it, otherwise you don't.
yeah.
um,
And you've
and
got
and
all that
that
investment in at the beginning.
exactly, yes, all the money is spent, by the middle of June, and you've still got another 3 months to battle it out in order to get to the end product. And then perhaps you will realize, depending on market conditions,
Yeah.
the paycheck that you think you deserve.
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick questions before I've wrapped up. I've
No
kept you a
problem.
little I
Oh
kept you
no,
a
it's
little
all
longer.
good. All good, Mike. All good.
Uh,
It's
uh,
enjoyable to talk about this. I mean, this is what, if you don't have a passion for agriculture, or you don't have a passion for food retail, I don't think you can be in the business.
no.
And I say that with all honesty. And then combining the two of them, we didn't really quite realize what we were getting ourselves into. We had, agriculture has been part of our family for generations, so we had a good understanding of that. And retail, we thought we had an understanding of, and then we got our minds kind of blown up.
Yeah.
It's like combining the worst of two worlds in certain ways, and trying to manage them. They're both 24/7 businesses.
Yep.
You have to live and breathe all the time, and be passionate about it in order for it to be a real success. I think, and that certainly can be a positive, and it can be a negative, both depending on the time of the year and what the other competing interests for time are.
So I'm interested. I mean, you talked about diversifying into direct to consumer, into your farm market, as a way of increasing the revenue base, so that there was some potential for you and then your sister to come home. You also talked about, if market conditions are right, that you make more than your costs back. Does having a direct to consumer farm market, does having your grocery store take some of the cyclical revenue risk out of being a market gardener?
Certainly, it does to a point, but at a certain way too, there's people only have so many food dollars to spend, or
Yeah.
they feel they only have so many food dollars to spend. And certainly it's going to be interesting going through this year, as everyone is very super hyper conscious of what they are spending and how much it's costing. Inflation is certainly there, and we can see it very much in the cost of the goods that we're putting on the shelves. And I don't think necessarily that that inflationary pressure is going to be gone anytime soon. And I think it perhaps only will get a little more extreme. All of the inputs, as we already had mentioned, they're already going in the ground now,
Yeah.
but the payback for those inputs is not going to occur for another 2 to 3 months,
Yeah.
or 4 months within this area of the world. So, in order for farmers to continue to grow year to year, they're going to have to recoup those costs. And I think certainly the markets appear that they're doing that at the moment. But if everything continues to go up, commodities are going to go up, and that's going to increase the overall food bill. So, but as far as the cyclical nature of the market garden, yes, it does help, because people have a following for our garden piece, so they're going to pay what they feel they're worth, and usually that can align fairly well with what we feel they're worth as well, so that we can be making enough to continue to do it the next year. Ultimately, there is competition. You get to, if you're a specialty grocery store or you're at the farmer's market, you can't ask the moon if someone else is able to produce it and sell it for less.
Yeah.
And that goes right for the major grocery chains and all of that. Everything plays into the basket of what people are going to pay. So you have to be cognizant of what your competition is also charging at the same time. Um, and then in the case of apples, everyone likes to think of apples as kind of a specialty thing, which they are, but they are very much a global commodity in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So very much affected by what has happened in New York State, or Washington is the biggest influencer of our price here in Canada, but certainly in Ontario and BC to a very large extent, is what is the Washington crop doing, because they are the largest area of apple production within North America.
Yeah. So it helps, but it's not a silver bullet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Kyle, that's been awesome. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think I could talk to you for hours on end, and I'm looking
I think we
forward
could
to.
for sure.
I'm looking forward to coming up and visiting again. Um,
Absolutely. Anytime. Yep.
but I just wanted to finish with, if listeners wanted to sort of get a sense of what you do on the farm, I sort of met you through Twitter at
Yep.
Kyle Oakley, and I think that people who are interested in how a market garden works should follow you, because a good bit of the stuff you tweet out is, here's what we're doing today and here's what it looks like, and I think it's a good way for people to see. If they're up in Thornbury, they should stop by Goldsmiths. And where can they find you online, Kyle?
So we're on at goldsmithsmarket.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, where we do a lot of updates for the market, but also updates about what we're growing and what's coming along in the greenhouse and that type of thing. And I believe those handles are also at Goldsmiths Market, both on Instagram and Facebook. And yes, personally, on Twitter, Kyle Oakley GB, at Kyle Oakley GB is where I'm at there. GB being Georgian Bay, of course.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely, follow along and be part of the journey.
great. Well, thanks, Kyle, and have a great summer. And maybe if I'm stopped in at Goldsmiths, I'll say hello. That wraps up another episode of the Food Focus podcast. We very much appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you just discovered Food Focus, you can subscribe anywhere you get podcasts. If you enjoy the podcast, please give us a review. It helps others find us. Before we go, I want to thank my producer, Zach, for his hard work in making each episode sound good. He does the hard work, and we get to have all of the fun. Thanks. Have a great day.